All right, my friends. So today we're doing another video. And in today's one, we're talking about where does fear come from? Now, this is specifically coming from one of these self-reflected video challenges that we were asked to do this, like where does blank word come from? And specifically, these words that come from a idea or concept that was shared with us about the tree of evil. Now, I know this is, I think, a biblical idea, like the tree of good and evil, but this one's a little bit different, with evil being at the top, which then where does evil come from? Anger. Anger comes from blame, and then blame comes from fear. Now, where does fear come from then? And fear really comes from having uncertainty or doubt about something. So when we don't know something, when we are uncertain about something, usually it's because you're like, that's where like your fear would really come from, because you're not understanding something, right? So even in the sense, like I know of a friend of mine in the self-reflected group used a perfect example of like, even if you were to fear like a bear, for example, that might attack you if you saw it in the wild, it's like really the fear is of the uncertainty of what you think the bear might do to you, right? And then it's like, where does that fear come? So I said fear comes from that doubt, right? That uncertainty. And then that doubt as well causes inequality, right? Because you don't see yourself as equal to the bear, for example, in that moment. Maybe you don't see yourself as equal, like even for, I don't know, maybe doing this a live video or speaking in front of people. It's like you don't see yourself equal to the situation, or just someone who, I don't know, maybe like a Tony Robbins, where like I can't be like Tony Robbins, right? So that like an inequality point comes into play. And then really like what is then the root of that? Lack of education. And really at its core, it's like the root of all evil, which for me, I chose within that tree fear. And then at the root of all of these negative emotions is lack of education. So when you educate yourself on something, when you know something, when you take the time to understand something, and really it's like all those uncertainties, all those doubts, all those those questions kind of just go away. At the same time, when you're doing something like, for example, public speaking, that fear doesn't go away until you do it. So really it's like that fear comes from the uncertainty of the future, like because we don't know something, right? So it's like really there's that concept of like fear, an acronym, face everything and rise. Or if I fear it, I must do it. So it's like until you actually walk through that fear point and educate yourself in that moment, or like really just become certain within yourself, because I don't think like the more you know something necessarily the fear goes away, because especially if you're someone that is into personal development or like wants to expand themselves, it's like, you know, there's going to be different levels then of the fear that you're going to experience. Like I don't think necessarily, like even like a Tony Robbins, like I used his example already, I don't think he's something, he doesn't fear anything. I think he's just better at walking through the fear points and just doing it, because he knows that fear is a program that's been instilled within us to just be afraid of taking action. And our ego loves to stay within its comfort zone so that we don't push ourselves beyond our limits. And that's why you have to challenge it, and usually it's through walking through that point that we break through that fear, or that we break through that point within ourselves, and we're like, wow, like that wasn't actually as bad as I thought it was. So tree of evil, and this is where like these ideas and concepts are sort of coming from. But really it's like, this is another reason why like I use a program called Techno Tutor, because it is the ultimate personal development tool for self-education, right? Because once you know something, once you educate yourself on something, you become certain in those points, ideas, concepts. So really, it's like the more you understand, the more you educate yourself on something, the more understanding of reality you have, and then the easier it is to walk through those fear points, or walk through things that like you don't know about. So even if you have like a fear of math, if would you really have that fear if you were confident that you just knew the math? Probably. Or like you would just be less afraid of like failing, basically, right? So it's interesting because it's like when we understand something, when we know something, we're confident, and when we don't know something, it's like when we kind of constrict and like when we don't know something, it's like you to get that feeling of like we can even feel it within yourself, like you have this movement of energy inside you that gets like nervous. So it's and basically it's like that information isn't integrated properly within you, which is what TechnoTutor actually helps you to do, is actually integrate information so that you then do become certain because it's already in your unconscious like understanding of things, right? And it's the same, it's kind of like, so if I was to give you an example of like very clearly, it's like you're so confident when you know your name, right? Like if I was to ask you your name, it's like boom, you already know, right? But if I was to ask you something like 7,154 times 2,158 or something, it's like if you're not even comfortable with like crunching numbers, it's like I know even for myself, I'm like I don't fucking know what that is. So yeah, I think that's just kind of what I wanted to say on fear. So fear is definitely something that takes it's something that I think you get better to manage and be able to face the fear and walk through it. But that does take practice. It does take confidence. It does take or a level of confidence that you build, especially the more that you do something, right? Because the more you do something, the more you practice at something, the better you get at it. And like I said, I don't think it's necessary that you get rid of the fear entirely. It's just it's easier to just like walk through it. So again, this is coming from the Self Perfected group. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's an awesome Facebook group where I've definitely taken my personal development journey to a whole other level, where I've been connected to a great group of people that really push you to the next level in terms of like becoming stable within yourself and really just like just achieving all the things that you wanted to in life. So when it comes to money, relationships, all those types of things, right? So check it out. I'll put the link in the comments of this video, as well as, like I said, if you want to take self-education to its utmost potential, definitely check out TechnoTutor, because that will really help you walk through any fear point that you have to really, just become certain and know and understand something. So yeah, I think that's it. Have a great day, everybody, wherever you are, and we'll catch you in the next video.